Alright, hey everyone. I'm so sorry I couldn't be with you guys today during class, but hopefully we can get through these notes through the video and then we won't be too far behind when I get back on Wednesday. So before we start going over the warm-up, I know I have my first step here for the warm-up, but if you haven't done your warm-up yet, please make sure you do it on your own before you listen to this video, because I want to make sure that you know how to do things before we move on. So if we just copy down the answers, we're not really trying it. So if you haven't done them yet, pause it and do them and then come back. Okay, if you're still with me and you've done both of these problems, let's make sure that we have the correct answers. So for the first one, I recopied the problem except for I simplified starting in my parentheses and my absolute value symbols. So in the top, 5 times 2.5 is where I'm going to start, because you would do multiplication before addition in your parentheses, and I got 12.5. On the bottom, 2 minus 9 is negative 7. So then my next step, I actually completed these two grouping symbols. So 4 plus 12.5 is 16.5, and absolute value of negative 7 is positive 7. Okay, so now I gotta finish up the top of our fraction. So I did 2 times 16.5 is 33, so 9 minus 33 gives us negative 14, excuse me, and then negative 14 divided by 7 is negative 2, which is our final answer. Okay, remember grouping symbols, exponents, multiply then divide, order from left to right, and then addition and subtraction, order from left to right. Okay, for B, Miss Donalyn is buying bottles of soda for the after-school program. The store is having a promotion. The first bottle of soda costs $1.10, and every bottle after that costs 88 cents. How much will Miss Donalyn owe the store if she buys 7 bottles of soda? So first, I kind of made an equation here. $1.10 is for our first soda, right? The first bottle of soda. And then I did 88 cents times 6, because if she's buying 7 bottles of soda, it's just $1.10 for the first one, and then the rest of the 6 are 88 cents. So then from there, I multiplied 0.88 times 6 to get $5.28, added $1.10, and then our final answer is $6.38. Hopefully both of those went okay. We are going to do some substitution notes today, which is basically taking order of operations and extending it a little bit further. So there's just like one extra step. So let's go on. All right. So first thing, it says substitute all the replacement values inside of parentheses. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is it's going to have an expression something like 2x plus 7, and they'll say x is equal to 1. So then instead of the x, you're going to replace all your variables with the number that it should be. But we're always, should I say it again? Always going to use parentheses. Always. Okay, so I want you to highlight or star or something for this, because we need to remember that we're going to use parentheses whenever we plug in a number. And I'll show you exactly what I mean in just a second. Okay, but once we've done that, we're just going to use order of operations. Okay, so it's the same things we were doing yesterday. Okay, we're just doing one step before it. Okay, and then also obviously make sure your answer is in its simplest form or reduced if it's a fraction. Okay, before we do some example problems, just remember some helpful hints. If you see 2 next to an n, remember 2 things right next to each other, it means they're multiplying. So it's really 2 times n. Same thing if you see parentheses right next to each other. 3 parentheses negative 5 is really 3 times negative 5. Same thing with letter D. We have QR, and that just means Q times R, right? Right next to each other, multiply. And then fractions mean divide. So 3 divided by 2 times x, because those are right next to each other. Okay, so first one for the we try, we have negative 2 absolute value 9 minus x, absolute value plus 7. Okay, and then they told us that x was equal to negative 4. So the first thing I'm going to do is rewrite my problem, and then instead of having this x here, I replaced it with negative 4. And look what I put around it. I put my parentheses around it. Okay, so we rewrote the whole problem. Everything else is exactly the same. We still have the minus here. We're just putting negative 4 in for x in those parentheses. Okay, always use your parentheses. Sometimes if you don't have them, your answer will be fine. But sometimes if you miss them, it's going to throw out the whole thing. So we need to make sure that we're always using them just in case. Okay, but once we have this problem, we're just going to use order of operations, right? So using order of operations, we need grouping symbols first. So I'm going to start inside my absolute value. Okay, so 9 minus -4 is positive 13. Okay, to finish out those grouping symbols, the positive 13 absolute value is still positive 13. So we just have to multiply there. So -2 times 13 is -26 plus 7 gives us a -19. Pretty straightforward, right? Once you've substituted in, you're just using order of operations. So it's more practice of what we were doing yesterday. Okay, and we always use parentheses, right? Make sure we're remembering that. Okay. Next one, 6 minus 2a divided by 3 plus b. So this one's kind of the same, but we have two variables. So we have an a up here, which is equal to 10, and then we have a b down here, which is equal to -8. So let's look at it substituted in. Okay, so we still keep this front part, 6 minus. Then on top of our fraction, we're going to have 2 times a, which is 2 times 10. On the bottom, we have 3 plus -8, because we plugged that b in. Okay, so now we want to simplify this fraction part before we can do our subtraction, right? Because we got to go do our division before we subtract. So our next step, I actually simplified the top and the bottom in the same step because you could do it in one step at a time, but I just wanted to save some space. Okay, so 2 times 10 is 20 on the top, 3 plus -8 is -5. Okay, then we're going to do our division here. So we have a 6 minus, that minus came all the way from the beginning, so don't drop it, right? Minus, minus, minus. And then 20 divided by -5 is -4. So we actually have two minuses here. Okay, so 6 minus a -4 gives us a positive 10. Okay, again, remember grouping symbols, exponents, multiply or divide, then add or subtract. Okay, next one. We have number 3. This one's a little bit longer. So we've got -b minus 4 parentheses a plus 2 and then minus b squared, and that's over ab. So first a is 5 and we have 2 a's in here that we're going to have to put 5 in for, and b is -3, and we actually have 3 b's that we have to substitute in. So it's a lot of substitution. And we want to be careful. When we're substituting in for -b here, this is a -3, so we want to make sure that when we put those in, we're going to have both of those negatives. See here, we did negative because we're just plugging in -3 there. Okay, so I'll show you that whole thing. So -4, parenthesis, another parenthesis because we're substituting in 5 for a, so a plus 2, close your parenthesis, minus b is -3. Remember, we're going to put parentheses around it. Okay, if you forget your parentheses here, you're going to get the wrong sign. Okay, so then on the bottom we have a is 5 and b is -3, both in parentheses. They show we're multiplying, right? Now we have to solve the top and we have to solve the bottom. So first thing that I did here was solve inside of our parentheses, right? Because that's a big grouping right there. So 5 plus 2 gives me 7, and that's all I changed from here to here. For my next one, we're going to simplify our exponents. -3 squared is 9, and we keep this negative out in the front. We don't want to lose it. This right here is positive 9, but we have this negative, so we still have to have the -9. Okay, next part we're going to multiply. So on the top, 4 times 7 is 28, and we keep that minus in front. This is actually also a multiplication. It's really like -1. This right here is like a -1 times -3, which gives us a positive 3. Okay, and then 4 times 7 is 28. On the bottom, 5 times -3 is -15. So then we had to finish up the top part of this. 3 minus 28 minus 9 is -34. And then what I did was I just canceled out my negatives and kept it as a fraction. Okay, remember, if you're going to get a decimal, you can always just leave it as a fraction. If you want to change it to a mixed number, you could. It would be 2 and 4 over 15. Or if you just straight divided it, you would get 2.26 repeating. Whenever we have a quiz or a test on this, I will accept any of these 3 answers. So whichever one you want to give me. Okay. Next one, we have number 4 is -4a. Okay, so let me get my highlighter. So a, and a is equal to -3, and then there's another a there, right? Divide by 2 minus 8 square root of a squared plus b cubed, and b is -2. So make sure when you're doing this one that you realize that's a cubed, not squared, okay? Because if you do squared, you're going to get the wrong answer. So first thing we're going to do is plug in our answers for the different variables. So -4 parenthesis a divided by 2 minus 8 square root 3 in parentheses squared plus parentheses -2 cubed. Remember, I have my parentheses every time I put a variable. I had 3 variables and 3 new sets of parentheses, right? Okay, order of operations, grouping symbols first. So underneath our square root is where is a grouping symbol. So under there, we're going to do our exponents. So 3 squared is 9, -2 cubed is -8, and we keep that plus in the front, right? So because -2 times -2 is +4 times -2 goes back to being negative. Okay, so 9 plus -8. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is finish up inside of our square root. So 9 plus -8 is just +1. Okay, and then if we finish that, it's just 1. Square root of 1 is 1. Right, now we've got multiplication, division, more multiplication, so we have to go in order from left to right. Okay, so we did -4 times 3 is -12, divided by 2 minus, that all stays the same. Okay, next we're going to do our division, right? So -12 divided by 2 is -6, minus 8 times 1. Now we do our multiplication, 8 times 1 is 8, so -6 minus 8 is -14. Okay, substitute in with parentheses, then use order of operations to solve every time. Okay. Number 5, we have 2 to the b minus 5, and then that's over the absolute value of c minus e, and then -6. Okay, so let's look at our different variables. So first we've got b to the 0, so b equals 0, sorry, so we have a b up here in our little exponent. Then we have a c down here, and c is 12, and we have an e down here, and e is 22. So remember, the first thing we're going to do is substitute with parentheses. Okay, I didn't put parentheses on my exponent. You don't really need it on your exponent. Okay, but 2 to the 0 minus 5, all over absolute value of -12 minus 22, absolute value minus 6. Okay, order of operations, grouping symbols, we're going to start with this fraction, right? And in there, we're going to solve at the bottom because that's a grouping symbol. So 12 minus 22 is -10. Okay, but then it's absolute value of -10, so it's going to change to a +10. Now we've got to finish up the top here. 2 to the 0 power is 1. Anything to the 0 power is always 1. It doesn't matter if it's 4 to the 0 power, 10,000 to the 0 power, anything to the 0 power is 1. Okay, so then we're going to subtract. 1 minus 5 is -4. -4 divided by 10 minus 6 is going to give us -6.4 or -6 2/5, or as an improper fraction, -32/5. Any of these answers is fine. I would probably go with this first one. I would just change this to a decimal by dividing and then -6, but it's up to you. Okay, number 6. Okay, again, we've got some variables that we have to substitute in for. So we have y and a y here. So y is equal to 6. And then we have an x, and x is equal to 64. And then we have a z, and z equals -2. Okay, so let's look at our substitution with parentheses always. So 8 plus, that stays the same, 4 parentheses 6 over 5 minus parentheses 6. Minus 3 square root of 64, I put my parentheses around it, plus parentheses -2 cubed. Okay, grouping symbols is where we got to start, right? So I would start with your square root because that is a grouping symbol. So square root of 64 is just 8. The next thing I would do here would be my exponents. So -2 cubed is -8 because that's -2 times -2 times -2. So that's -8. Okay, then I would do my fraction here because it's kind of a grouping by itself and it needs to get rid of it so we can do our division. Okay, so 4 times 6 is 24 on the bottom. 5 minus 6 stays the same, but then we're going to subtract 5 minus 6 is negative 1. Okay, I also did my multiplication here. 3 times 8 is 24, so I just changed that also. Okay, do our division. 24 divided by negative 1 is negative 24. And then all I did was add all the way going across. So 8 plus negative 24 minus 24 plus negative 8 gives us a negative 48. Okay. The next ones are a little bit different. They're actually formulas, and we're going to be using a lot of formulas when we get to our surface area and volume unit, so it is coming up. Okay, so the first one, to convert Fahrenheit to Celsius, you use the formula C equals F minus 30 over 2. If it is 67 degrees Fahrenheit, so that's going to go in for F. They want to know what's the degrees in Celsius. So I just rewrote my problem, and I did 67 on the top minus 30 divided by 2. 67 minus 30 is 37 divided by 2. And then divide it, and you get 18.5 degrees Celsius. Not too hard, right? Okay, last one, same sort of thing. We have the miles per gallon M of an experimental car is given by M is equal to 75 minus 0.3, parentheses, S divided by 10 squared, where S is the car's speed in miles per hour. What's the car's miles per gallon if its speed is 70 miles per hour? So speed was the S, right? So we're going to plug that in. So 75 minus 0.3 divided by 70 over 10 squared. So parentheses first, 70 divided by 10 is 7. Then exponents, 75 minus 0.3, then this squared is 49. Then multiplication, 0.3 times 49 is 14.7. So then 75 minus 14.7 is 60.3 miles per gallon. Okay, so next you're going to do the U-Try. Okay, there are 8 questions and a challenge question. If you finish these, the answer key is on the Blackboard site underneath classwork homework for today's date. So classwork homework, quarter 1, then go week of 10/29, and then look for Tuesday. Okay, and the answer key is attached there. Please don't just look at the answer key and write down all the answers. That doesn't help you learn, right? We need to try it ourselves before checking our answer key. Okay, when you finish checking your answer key, you can ask for the homework and make sure that you complete that for Wednesday's class. And I will see you guys then.